What is an observable? It's a lazy event stream. Anybody here familiar with node streams? Used gulp before? Those are streams. Very, very similar to that with some differences. So it's a lazy event stream which can emit 0 or more events. It's composed of subjects and observers. A subject performs some logic and notifies the observer at the appropriate times. So we'll get more into it. So observable versus a promise. This might help shed some light on it. So we're all familiar with promises in here, right? Okay. So observables are lazy, whereas a promise, when you invoke the promise, it initializes and it comes back when it's ready, right? An observable doesn't. You can write all the code that's going to run when the observable is notified, but it actually won't run yet until you tell it to. It's lazy. They don't run unless you subscribe to something, while a promise will run as soon as you execute it. So that's pretty cool. Observables can define both setup and teardown aspects of asynchronous behavior, and we'll get into that in a little bit, what that actually means. You can cancel an observable. You can be like, stop, I don't care anymore. I think that's pretty cool. Although some promise libraries allow you to do that too, like Bluebird, you can kind of get in there. Observables can be retried, while a caller must have access to the original function that returned the promise in order to retry. So we'll see what that means too. So we don't need a reference to the observable to try it again, whereas in a promise we do. We need to save that reference. Whereas in observable, the reference is actually the method that unsubscribes from itself. It took me a while to get observables. There's this app, if you have an Android phone, it's this app called RX Marbles, and it teaches you, have you seen that app? Yeah. It's on, there's a web one too, but I've been on my phone just looking at that, and it's been helping me diagram out observables and stuff like that. Highly recommend checking it out. So, observable.subscribe. This is the method we're going to be interacting with the most here. So subscribe just pretty much just starts your observable to listen on some type of stream here. And it really just takes, in this case, just 3 callbacks. The one is going to be the callback that happens when a piece of data comes through the stream. The second is going to be if an error is thrown, and the third is going to be when there's no more data coming and we're about to be done. So very similar to promises almost, where you would have a then, a catch, and then a finally, right? So here's an example. So this source would be some type of observable stream. In our case, it's going to be some type of HTTP method, probably a GET or a POST. And then we're going to subscribe to that observable. And when a piece of data comes in this case X, we're just going to console log next. If an error were to happen, we would console log the error. And finally, when there's nothing more and we're unsubscribing, we're completed. So conceptually, it's the same. Right now, the only difference is the word subscribe. But if I put then there, it looks just like a promise. Right? So it's just the word right now. So observable to promise. This is the method that we can use to convert our observable back to a standard A+ spec promise, which is familiar. And sometimes, you just have to do it. So to do that, you literally just call toPromise on it, and then you have a promise. Done. Easy. And this works with the HTTP module in Angular too. Very convenient. Any questions on that so far? Cool. What is this? I don't know what this is. It's just a random code sample in here. Hey, y'all, look at me. I don't know. OK, and then always what's important when handling async operations is error handling. So we talked about how observables handle errors. You can pass in a second argument to your subscribe, but you can also just immediately do a .catch, just like you would on a promise, right on this observable, and you can tune in for your error here, and then just throw it, observable.throw, which will throw an error down the stream so it can be caught later on, instead of just throwing it outside of the stack. So this is how you would implicitly throw them. So for instance, if you were using window.fetch, which doesn't throw an error on like status codes 400 and above, you had to do it yourself. I wish they would fix that. You would have to do something like this. Any questions on this? Nope. All right. So an example of that, we were trying to get some file that doesn't exist, and we should be smart about it, and we should go ahead and try to catch that error there. So we're going to try to handle it, and we're going to return this observable. The difference with this and the promise is, like I said, it's going to shoot this error down the stream of the observable so we can catch it later on in the event that it does happen. But, you know, like let's say see, the thing about observables, you can compose them, and like this might be composed in another stream, so we don't want this error interrupting another stream of observables. So this is why this is great. Whereas a promise, most invitations, if one promise fails, it all just breaks. Any questions on this stuff? All right. Okay, so headers inside of HTTP, very important, obviously, when it comes to like putting and getting things and authentication, authorization, identification, stuff like that. So to use headers, there's a headers class that comes with the Angular 2/HTTP module that we can use to just set up headers. And we can pass them in as an options here to our methods like post, as you can see at the bottom. And they're pretty simple. This is a headers object that you attach to this request options object, and you just pass that along. Is it really complicated? Yeah. Could we have just used regular modules? Probably. I mean, regular objects? Probably. But this is how you do it.